Is it another case of a rock band selling out, going pop, and getting bitten by the Imagine Dragon bug that's been going around? Or is it just the community overreacting and being a little bit dramatic? What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Beyond ARTV. My name is John. It's time to talk about The Violence, the new song by Asking Alexandria. I suppose a maybe former metalcore, post-hardcore, other types of band type of band, and they've definitely tried some other things over the years. I mean, their self-titled record in 2017 was actually pretty good, probably among their best albums to date. I mean, the band are getting older now. Danny Worsnop is now back in the band, their lead vocalist. For a while he was out, Dennis was in, now Dennis is out, and Danny's back in. It's been a confusing ride, but also one that I've kind of looked at from a distance with a set of binoculars, like, I'm keeping my eye on them, but I'm not overly invested because I'm also bird watching. I had heard so many negative things before I even hit play on The Violence that I was convinced that I was going to dislike or else hate this song. I mean, I was expecting drum machines all throughout, auto-tuned vocals on Danny's vocals or something, and maybe just a dubstep breakdown like Young and Menace by Fall Out Boy. If this was going to be the ultimate sellout move, then I was expecting something big. And instead of that, I listened to this song, and what I hear is a catchy arena rock leaning track that has a lot of fun qualities to it, but also some truths that are laced into the lyrics. And I understand that this is definitely a departure for the band, but what's the big deal about changing, especially if it's in a direction that actually makes sense because they can't stand up and scream forever? Jesus, man, some people are so hard to please. I mean, I know that I can be picky about stuff, but I really don't think this is a big issue for Asking Alexandria. Like, oh my god, they've completely changed their style. And this is coming at it from a completely outsider point of view. I'm not a big fan of this band. I also don't dislike the band. I like a good amount of their material, but I don't actively listen to them, at least not all the time. I check out their new stuff when they drop it. I occasionally do reviews of their music. I've even checked out Danny Worsnop's project. Like, his solo stuff was pretty good. We Are Harlot, I thought, had some great songs on that little side project there. And bringing it all back into Asking Alexandria, can you really say that you're that surprised if you followed Danny at all? Of course, these are all separate entities, and to say that one project is going to be influenced by another just because one member has worked on another band would be completely asinine. I mean, Jack White doesn't have the Raconteurs and his solo stuff sounding the exact same, and that's for really anyone that has multiple bands. And Asking Alexandria with The Violence kind of tackle the issue of the mainstream media being force-fed lies. It's kind of generic in that way. I know there's a lot of songs that have a similar tone and message, but I guess it's the way that they package it here that makes it engaging for me. I think it's kind of fresh in some ways. It's got some gargantuan guitar riffs that really just chomp down during the chorus. And to the whole thing where people are like, they've been bitten by Imagine Dragons, they've got the virus, and they're infected now with this pop melody. And really, having a pop melody would imply that Imagine Dragons are doing something completely wrong. And while I outright dislike and hate some of their music, I don't think that inherently they are necessarily a bad band or the problem with music like so many people seem to think. I mean, don't get me wrong, I still hate tracks like Thunder and Dancing in the Dark and even some of the tracks on Origins, but still. Now, I think what more people's issue actually is that Imagine Dragons have inspired so many ripoffs, and also their music is played to death. I'm sick of Imagine Dragons, and I know that people imitating Imagine Dragons are even less original, I suppose, in some ways than them, and it's just all a big circle right now. For a rock band to enter the mainstream charts, then they're probably going to sound kind of similar, have these anthemic stylings to them. So I understand the inspirations, and yes, I think maybe that could be one of them. But to say that they're entirely just copying or ripping off or playing in the same vein as Imagine Dragons, I mean, when have you heard an Imagine Dragons song this aggressive? I know for a fact that I never have. I mean, maybe you could bring up Radioactive, but even then, that wasn't really guitars. That was more of like a dubstep wub 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 type of thing. And here the drums are actually pretty nice on this Asking Alexandria tune. I do like the guitars. That's the biggest draw for me here. And the music video is worth watching too. I guess I get it if you were a little bit confused by the band's marketing choices. I mean, they put out like the movie poster for it and they were like, remember, this is what you asked for. And from the band that brought you Stand Up and Scream and Reckless and Relentless and everything like that, people are probably hyped and they're like, the violence, oh my God, it's gonna be so brutal. But then it's not. I can understand disappointment in that aspect, but also, I guess, give the song more of a chance if you haven't played it more than one time, or if you turned it off after the first time that you heard Danny's vocals. They do sound different here, but I also don't think that they're like so processed and like so overly done in some way, or that the guitars are awful, or that the production is sloppy, or anything like that. I can't call to mind one specific thing. I mean, overall, I do think that it's a little bit too generic, a little bit too safe in some ways, but also they act like it's more than it is. So I understand that criticism. I have that criticism myself. But overall, for me, this track is a 3.5 out of 5. I mean, I've seen a lot of my contemporaries, a lot of my peers saying like worst of the year material, and I'm like, have you heard Seven Rings? Have you heard the Bad Guy remix? This ain't got nothing on those. Anyways, guys, this is just my opinion on the new Asking Alexandria track. I had to go out on a limb and say, you know what, in defense of Asking Alexandria, since so many people are talking down to them right now, like, oh my God, Sleeping with Sirens are heavier than them right now. I mean, maybe so, but if you're gauging the quality of the song by how heavy it is, I mean, what are you, 12? Let me know your thoughts on the violence in the comment section down below. I would genuinely love to know. While you're here, please drop a like on this video and subscribe for the love of music. I'm glad we got through this one together, guys. Remember, just because a band does change their sound, it doesn't have to be inherently awful. I mean, it can be awful for sure, and we've seen plenty of that, but I just don't think that this is the worst thing out there. Anyways, you can see my review of the self-titled album here, another recent video here, and I'll see you soon for more right here on Beyond ARTV.